So this is a new segment called Unverified History, and it's where we retell some of our favorite historical events from an entirely biased and unverified perspective. This is all what I remember, and I'm probably making up half of it. So, this is the story of the Children's Crusade. You guys are familiar with the Crusades, I imagine, right? That thing where Christians tried to steal the Middle East for themselves.
Yeah, I'm aware of it.
Yeah, and it was mostly adults, right? Because you're battling a war.
Yeah.
But there was an instance where it was actually children who decided that it was their time to get out there and reclaim the Holy Land for themselves. There was a kid named Nicholas, our own little Saint Nicholas. I don't know if he's considered a saint in the Catholic Church, but I, not having that power, declare him a saint, a Marinauts saint. He had a dream, I believe, where Jesus came to him and said, if you march down to the Mediterranean Sea, I will split the sea, just like I did for that Moses guy. I don't know, have you seen Prince of Egypt? It's gonna be just like that. Split the sea and you march across, and then all the Muslims will bow down and recognize your power. And Nicholas was like, all right, I mean, that's very compelling. That's a compelling argument. So he decided to get out there and start telling his fellow Germans this fantastic plan of his. And he amassed a pretty large group, almost exclusively of children. Just a bunch of children who are like, this is a great, okay, you're like 10 years old in like the 12th century, and some dude comes up to you and says, hey, I'm gonna split the sea for Jesus. This is a very appealing concept. You don't see any faults in this.
There's no downside to that plan.
No, there's none, because this kid's probably 12 and you're 10, and the fact that he's 2 years older than you means he's an adult. This is a genius idea, because the adult's telling you it's gonna happen. And so they immediately started marching over the Swiss Alps and trying to head down to Italy towards the Mediterranean Sea. And this isn't modern times where they've got their down jackets or whatever. These are like peasants wearing cloth, trying to march through the frigid, cold mountains.
Yeah.
7,000 children arrived at the base of the mountains. 2/3 of them had died on the journey. 2/3 of them, which means this group started with like 30,000 of them. Like there's like 28,000 of these kids who were just like, yes, this is a good idea. We're gonna go to the Middle East and end the conflict. There were 30,000 children like just ready to go kill indiscriminately.
How did they get like the legislation? Like how is the organization of this? Did so many kids?
It's like a Christian camp. They just one kid said we're doing it and everyone circled up around him and they started marching. And then 7,000 of them make it to the bottom and they're like, Nicholas, this is pretty bad. Like this is not going well. And he's like, hey, don't worry about it. Don't worry about it. I got this. And they get to the Mediterranean Sea and it does not part. Nothing happens. And they're pissed at Nicholas. And then they split up into factions. The first group run into this like captain guy and he says, hey, so you guys are trying to get to the Middle East, huh? Like I can help you out. And they're kids, they're like 10. So they're like, oh yeah? You're gonna take us free passage to the Middle East? All right. And they get on this dude's ship. And according to Wikipedia, they were taken to Tunisia and sold into child slavery. They crossed the mountains, watched like 2/3 of their friends freeze to death, got on a boat, and then were sold into slavery. The other group, Nicholas, tried going to the Middle East, and then he got bored and he went and he met with the Pope, and the Pope said, good work. The Pope like talked him out of it. He's like, don't go to the Middle East. It's not gonna go well for you. It's a bad idea. You're like 10. And so he decided to go home, and he froze to death on the way home in the mountains. Nicholas didn't survive, but he did get to meet the Pope, and that's that was a big deal for a medieval man.
Yeah, and then he sent him to his death.
And then he died trying to get back home, yeah. That was rough. I don't know what he was thinking.
I may not know a lot. I know a lot about God because I'm the Pope, but one thing I do know is that you should go back through the mountains that you almost died coming through.
Like, you weren't gonna supervise him? The Pope was just like, yeah, go back you made it once, you can do it again. Like, no, send an envoy with them. Give him like a parental guardian. Send like one dude with him at least. But no, they're just like, yeah, you can walk back home. You're good. And the other group were so impressed, like, say you're living in Italy and you just see like this army of starving children, 7,000 of them show up. They were so impressed that this group of children actually like managed to make it this far. They just said, you can live here if you want, like we'll give you a home. And those kids stayed in Italy.
Well, that's a happy ending, I think, like.
Yeah. Oh, also this happened twice. There's 2 different occasions where this occurred.